little bit of entertainment in everybody's everyday life, whether it be from a cell phone or a console or a PC or whatever. But have you ever wondered about what actually goes into these things? What kind of value that they present to our state, specifically in an economic sense? Well, today I would like to educate you on the ups and downs that the video game economy has presented us over many years. Now, video games have actually been a big part of my life. Like from when I was a wee little child, I've actually used to play a lot of video games on the old, very first generation brick of the Game Boy system. And now up to today, I waffle between the PS4 and my PC. So it's only natural that eventually I'll become curious about what actually goes into this, what kind of business there is, and so on and so forth, right? Right. And since we've all played video games at some point in our life, like whether or not it's something like Angry Birds, Animal Crossing, or say Grand Theft Auto 4. And so I'm sure maybe at some point you too might have actually been curious about what actually goes into these sorts of things, like whether or not they make money. So today I'll be giving you a brief overview of the video game monetary impact, the actual production roller coaster that comes between various companies that sell us these video games and the consoles that they're played on, and how viable a career in video games might actually be. First, let's talk about the money. Everybody wants to know about, of course. Some statistics I actually took from video games in the 21st century, the 2004 report, released from the ESA. It goes into details about how video games have actually impacted the economy as we know it. Here we have a quick display of the actual top 10 contributors of the video game economy. As you can see, California actually leads this top 10 with a total of $2.7 billion going back to the California economy alone, with Colorado following at a low behind with a $107.1 million going back. In 2002, the total cost alone from all these companies has actually added a total of $6.2 billion to the U.S. gross domestic product. And the average salary of developers and employees, or whether or not they're directly employed by these companies or independents or whatever really, comes to roughly about $94,747, with a compensation of about $4 billion national. In fact, it's gotten so big that some people actually have been predicting that the video game economy is growing a lot faster than the U.S. economy is. And in case it wasn't so obvious, you can look at Black Friday sales. Black Friday sales are positively popular for everybody, well, if you want to wake up that early. In fact, the 2004 results, as reported on from Laura Phillips, the Senior Vice President of Marketing from Walmart, indicated that video games are actually part of the top 5 top sellers in all Walmart chains across the U.S. for their Black Friday sales. Now let's look specifically at the supply and demand that these companies actually go ahead to make. So we all know the big names: Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, Ubisoft, all that stuff. Of course, you gotta figure that they have some sort of impact. As we all know of the console wars between Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they constantly go ahead to make big demands for these companies, big demands for the consumers, and so on and so forth. Here are the latest results of these said console wars. Currently, Nintendo is from one VG charts. Currently, Nintendo is actually in the lead with their 3DS selling at a whopping 51.5 million units worldwide. with Sony's PS4 leading early behind with roughly 20 billion, not billion, million. Which also leads to another thing, pre-sale culture. It's a controversy between all gamers. Every seasoned gamer knows what can possibly come from pre-sale culture. What this is that gaming companies actually will push out more to meet the demand, try and meet the constant demand with perks like merchandise or downloadable content. Some figure that's worth it, some not because of various reasons. Sometimes these games might become bugged, might actually not be finished, they might actually be buggy, or of course, glitches. Glitches. Yeah, it's not exactly pretty safe. So of course, how can you actually get involved in this? It's a growing economy. It's an opportunity. As we learned the other day, with esports alone, you could possibly make just a good couple million depending on the competition if you actually win. A lot of people make their career out of this. Going back to the video games in the 21st century report, developers obviously make a lot of money. These people and the employment is actually on the rise. And there's another blossoming career in playing video games on YouTube. Might seem weird, but it's actually possible. These people make money from ad revenues and whatnot, depending on their partnerships with such companies as Polaris, GenMaker, and Machinima. In fact, some examples that I pulled up from a site called Social Blade. Here are some of the popular ones. PewDiePie actually makes yearly between $368.3 thousand to $10.2 million, depending on year views. Cryotic makes $24.1 thousand to $386.2 thousand per year. Markiplier yearly makes $624.9 thousand to $10 million per year. And Cinnamon Toast Ken makes $72.2 thousand to $1.2 million per year. So today we've learned the impact that video games may seem to have on the U.S. economy, what comes behind it with the top forces in it, and the opportunities that can be presented to all of us, depending on whether or not you want to take a chance in this new blossoming economy. As you can see, there's a lot more to video games than just playing them. And today, I hope you learned something and maybe you might be a little bit interested yourself. Thank you.
Oh, you don't want to stand up there. We don't. That makes you feel like a target. Let's take shots at you. That's not what we're doing.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, we don't want to go that direction. So Nate, what did you think?
I liked the topic that she chose. I felt like being a gamer herself, she got to really be comfortable with the topic and she knew what she was talking about. I felt like some of her stuff had sources, some didn't. Like she didn't have sources on like the average income of the gamers she showed. I felt like she personalized it well with the audience, talking about how much money is in the business and how she like tied it in with like Black Friday sales. I didn't like her first graph when she showed the numbers because I felt that I was overwhelmed and she didn't talk about every single detail. but then she had like more than almost like 20 numbers up in the screen. For the second graph, what you talked about, the sales of the 3DS, I felt like she could have talked about more like why that was the leading consumptor. Because I know personally that it's the cheapest among the ones shown, so she could have talked about that. Overall, I thought her transitions were very well. She felt very comfortable with the topic, and it showed by how she presented it.
Okay. All right, the general statement at the beginning was okay. You've got a rhetorical question also that you use as your attention device. I think it sets up the subject pretty well. You identify what your purpose statement is early on, but then there's kind of this big second set of attention device material that you present before you get back to the purpose statement and to the preview, and that felt a little bit awkward, but the preview was still pretty clear, so I think structurally you're doing okay at the beginning of the speech. I think you need to think about what it is you're trying to say about each of the images a little bit, because sometimes you get caught up in details and pieces of information, and you're presenting information, but what is that information supposed to tell us? That's the essence. So when Nate's talking about that first slide with all of the data and everything on, I don't think the problem is that you've got all that data. It's that you sometimes you're talking about some of that data, but not all of the data. Why is all of that data relevant? And it basically comes down to this. Look how big the impact is on the economy of the jobs, or the number of jobs, or the amount of money that it brings in. The total on that far end column, the total impact on the economy is 12 or 15 billion dollars, whatever the number is. And if you looked at the number of jobs in all of these different states, we'd be talking about more than 100,000 jobs. This is a pretty big kind of thing, and that's the essence of what you're talking about there. All of the other information gives us a little bit of insight as to where that information comes from, but that's the point you're trying to make with that. And as it was, you're California versus Colorado, and that's not really the point of the speech. The point of that information was, here's how big it is, here's how much money it's making. This is a really big business. I thought you had a cute little visual joke with your glitches about the pre-order thing. It doesn't work as well as it should because things don't go as smoothly when you get into that material. If you were flowing smoothly into the glitches and you talked about that, and then we get your cute little the melting guys, was it melting Mario, and the guy sinking into the sand, and the half of a image there kind of thing. That's kind of funny. You run into these kinds of glitches in the pre-sale stuff. That's an interesting point. But it's like that whole section feels awkward because you haven't planned out what it is you're really trying to say in that particular point. Is it about the marketing? Is it about how even a growing industry can have little problems that it's dealing with? You can't expect perfection. You got to think about what is the point that I'm trying to make again. And I think you've got a lot of information in the speech. The question is, why do you have that information in the speech? And that's one of the things that I think at the beginning, the purpose statement is supposed to help you a little bit with, and you lose sight of that, I think, sometimes. I thought that you made good transitions between the points, and the slides worked pretty well explaining the ideas that you were talking about. You do have to go to the picture mute thing. This is just an example of something that the more people use this kind of technology, the easier it is to figure things out. You can stick in a blank slide, and then you don't have to keep turning the picture mute on and off. If you've just got a black slide or even a white slide in the background there, there's another button, you push it and there's nothing in the background there. So it's just a little bit more planning. That's a tech thing that you get from experience. I don't think you have to worry about that. It felt a little bit like you needed a couple more run-throughs to get everything to flow as smoothly. Mm-hmm. I know you've got information, you've got a structure, you've got the visuals there, but it doesn't feel like it's flowing very well together. And sometimes the information is it's just unclear. When you've got the 4 guys that you're showing at the end here, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, now where do they get this revenue stream from? What is this? Is this their winnings from tournaments? Is this their endorsements? Is this their advertising on their YouTube channels? Is it a combination of those things? That just wasn't very clear. And so why am I getting these 4 guys? And how does that fit into what you're talking about? That's the kind of stuff that I know that they are part of this economy that you're talking about. How are they part of that economy? That, I think, needed to be, again, explained a little bit more. It's not that they don't belong there. It's that I need to know a little bit more why am I looking at these four. That's all. All right. Thank you.